So my name is Dr. Andrew Kerrigan, and I am an associate lecturer and program manager in the Centre for Global Programs at the University of York. I would like to talk to you about some experiences that I've had living in different countries. I think I've lived in about 5 countries: Greece, Germany, Italy, Poland, England, Scotland, which is my home country. That's about 6, I guess, 5 foreign ones, if you want to use that term. I'm going to focus on Greece and Germany because I think I've spent the most time there and I can speak the language, and it places me at an advantage in terms of being able to sort of get inside the culture and make some more valid sort of interpretations about what is going on. So these are stories which I tell casually whenever I'm talking about cultural difference, and you have a couple of tasks to do when you're listening to these, which you have in front of you. So the first story I want to tell is about the World Cup that was held in Germany in 2006. So I moved to Germany in 2006, and my first experience of watching football there was that summer. And it was a great summer. It was a great summer of festivities. Young kids on the street with their faces painted, and dogs with rosettes on them. And every time Germany won a match, especially a big match towards the end of the competition, there was great scenes of jubilation, celebration. And basically, what happened was it was university town, so it was mostly young kids that were on the streets. They all went to the central part of the town. It was a great crossroads with lots of buses and traffics going through that crossroads, and they basically blocked it off. So there was you've got some video footage here. Basically, it was a huge numbers of kids, hundreds and hundreds of kids. They stopped the traffic. They were drinking lots of beer. They had been drinking throughout the whole match. And you can see that there's a lot of noise and movement. But, and here's the crucial, yes, and they stopped the traffic for about an hour and 3/4. And the cops were just letting them do this, letting them get it out their system. And they were climbing on top of the public buses and waving big flags. But at the end of all this, there was no smashed bottles in the street. There was certainly no violence at all, and there was no kind of nastiness and a nasty atmosphere. It was a carnival atmosphere, and it was very, very friendly. Now, if I compare that to what would happen in the same situation in Britain, especially England, I think, then it's chalk and cheese. Basically, there would always be a nasty atmosphere if that was taking place in Britain. There would be great drunkenness. There would be falling over. There would be smashed bottles. There would be injuries. There would be threatened moments of like, what are you looking at when you accidentally make eye contact with someone? So that is a big difference, and a refreshing difference between Germany and England there. Now, just a quick word about the same situation in Greece. I've watched Greek kids watching football, and mostly what happens is they drink coffee. They sit and they drink frappe, which is iced coffee in the summertime. And there is very little drunkenness. They might drink the odd beer, but there's very little drunkenness, because drinking in Greece drinking in Greece is very acceptable, the normal part of life. You don't have to celebrate to drink, which is an important difference. But drunkenness is taboo. So displays that you're losing control, especially for men, is a sign of like unmasculinity. and famously, Greeks have no problem mixing their wine. In ancient times, you didn't drink wine straight; you drank it mixed with water, and that tradition still exists in Greece today. If you're going to have a longer night, then you would mix your wine with usually soda water. So big difference there between Greece, Germany, and England. Another word about another aspect of German society which I found very interesting was the concept of Sperrmüll. Sperrmüll is basically if you don't want something in your house like a sofa, a piece of furniture, for example, a box of CDs, then you can put it outside your house. You phone a number, and in a couple of days, a special service from the local government will come and pick it up and take it away, usually to a recycling centre. In that time, it's accepted that people can take what they want. If your neighbours come out one morning and see you've got Sperrmüll on the pavement, they can rake through it and they can have a look and see if they want to actually take something into their house. So I saw this happening and I thought it's a wonderful idea. It's great for upcycling of material. We produce far too much, more than we need, and we're consuming the Earth's resources. And the Germans are very green when it comes to these things, and they've got great ideas. So I thought this was great. But what I found slightly odd was the fact that middle class, well-to-do, elegant men and women on a Sunday afternoon out for a stroll, arm in arm together, right? Going to little Viennese cafes and drinking fine coffee and a piece of cake. That kind of middle class German had no problem at all raking through other people's belongings to try and find a bargain. So I thought this was a bit odd because it's going through other people's unwanted belongings to find something that you might take home to your house is a little bit it's an indication that you come from a low class in this country, and I don't think that the same equivalent class of person, middle class, like middle or upper middle class in Britain, would actually do that. They wouldn't be seen doing that. So I found this really interesting, and the more I lived in Germany, the more I understood that they have a concept called well, they have two words for to describe your behavior with money when you don't want to spend so much money. A negative one is geizig, and that would be like mean or stingy in English, and another one is sparsam, which is you could say prudent in English, which is like you're economical with your money, and it's a good thing. So Sparsamkeit is the noun, and it's a big value in German culture, and it leads to this kind of behaviour. Another thing is that Germans get a lot of their social status from education. Famously, in the 19th century, they had a very high standard of education before educational reforms were enacted in this country. And you will know this if you go to in an academic context in Germany, because you'll hear mention of Herr Dr. Professor Pini, for example. So you've got Herr, Mr., Doctor, Professor. So they stack the titles together. And even in Austria, which is like more German than the Germans, you would, if you have a master's degree, then you're Magister. So you get that extra title. So educational titles are one of the main ways that Germans show their social status. Now, if I compare this to other countries, so for example, in Greece, the way that you show your social status in Greece is through consuming and then ostentatiously showing off material goods. Very often it's status symbols like cars, Rolexes, and when I lived in Athens back in the 1990s, it was trophy dogs. So for example, I couldn't get to sleep in the neighbourhood that I was living in because all the dogs were barking all times of night, and they were purebred um, uh, examples of a certain breed. So they were pedigree dogs, we would call them, and they were the latest status symbol for well-to-do, upwardly mobile Greeks. And certainly, I was thoroughly admonished for wearing shorts and t-shirt in high summer in Greece when the temperature hits 40 plus degrees in Athens, because it wasn't a sign of showing off your wealth. I was supposed to wear more elegant clothes to show off my social status. So I think that a lot of countries would recognise that behaviour, especially newly rich countries. And then just finally, to compare that with the situation in Britain, social class in Britain, not many people know this or appreciate this. Not even many British people can put this into words so well. Social class in Britain doesn't have much to do with money. It has got more to do with breeding and language and behaviour. So, for example, there are certain words which the upper classes use, and they have other words which lower classes use. A good example would be dinner and tea. So if you call your evening meal dinner, it's a higher class word. If you call it tea, it's more of a working class word. And there are a whole range of these indicators, little subtle indicators in language that we're very sensitive to and that we pick up on unconsciously mostly. Another point would be, for example, social activities. So, for example, if you are spend your weekends horse riding, or if you have these landed leisure activities like shooting, for example, horse riding, then it's from the upper classes. If you watching or playing football, for example, then it's from the lower classes. Fishing, again, is more of like an upper class activity. So here you have lots of different stories and observations from times of different culture that I've spent in different cultures, which if you reflect upon them, then you follow them up with more research, then you can begin to recognize differences in similarities and vice versa, which are very fruitful.